Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about one of the most prolific sub sandwich places in the country and one of the most popular fast food places too. I'm of course talking about Subway. Now, it's not necessarily anyone's favorite, let's be real. It's not like the best quality or the finest sandwiches in the world, but Subway's made a name for itself for having cheap sandwiches that you could get really big sizes like 6 inches or foot longs, and they have good deals sometimes. They're also many locations. That's why I mentioned they're like one of the places with the most locations. And I think that's in part because of the process. Like they're not really cooking a lot. They usually make cold sandwiches. They've moved on to having hot sandwiches too, but they're just made in this sort of microwave machine, this like mini oven. So it's pretty simple to cook and make what they have. So they have the ability to have lots of small stores in lots of locations. And they have one of the most prolific amount of locations of any fast food place. And they also had this whole marketing scheme where they tried to act like they're not fast food and they're not gross and like bad for you. And they had this whole campaign where you might remember that Jared guy from about 10 or 20 years ago. Their ad campaign had this guy having this whole story about how he lost weight eating Subway sandwiches. That was a big story and a big marketing campaign for them. It went on for many years until it had to end when that Jared guy went to jail for some very bad reasons. He turned out to be a very bad person. But the point is that campaign was world famous. It tried to make Subway out to be this healthy kind of place. And over the years, people are realizing that's certainly not true. They're not nearly as healthy as they claim. Sure, you might get some more calories if you go to a McDonald's and you get, double cheeseburgers and lots of soda and fries. Like they're definitely potentially more calories at another place. Like you could also make a sub sandwich in a fairly healthy way, especially if you use their new low carb wraps. But today we're going to talk about how their bread is coming into question and how there's actually a court ruling that said it's not even legally allowed to be called bread in a certain country anymore. So this is pretty interesting, a pretty funny turn of events for Subway. That's why I wanted to bring it up and discuss it more. This journal tweet has more information. It says, Subway sandwiches contain too much sugar to legally be considered bread. Supreme Court rules. Now, I believe this is from Ireland. This is a story where Ireland decided to make this rule that it can't be considered bread because it has too much sugar. And this actually makes sense when I think about it. Like I never thought of it like the bread seems like normal to me, but when I hear it now, it's like, yeah, it does have a lot of sweetness to it. It is kind of like a heavier, thick bread. It's not like your typical kind of like loafy light bread. They probably add a lot of extra sugar to make it taste better. And that's really what Subway's all about, is like a lot of like sugar and preservatives. That's what their meats are like too. Like they're very much like processed and overproduced. That's why they last so long and they can have these cold cuts around all day. Like it's not the best quality is the point. And it really contradicts, like I said in the intro, they tried to have this angle of them being healthier and it being like good for you to have Subway every day. And that's what Jared's whole campaign was about. He said he walked to Subway every day and he's lost weight. But South Park actually made a famous parody of that. It's not exactly true. The commercials could be considered pretty misleading since Jared had a very specific regimen. He didn't just eat Subway. Like for one, when he did eat Subway, it was like a 6-inch turkey only, no cheese, no sauce, like just bare minimum, like nothing on the sandwich, just turkey and bread. Like if you just eat that, I mean, that's fine. Like it'd be all right, but it's not what most people get at Subway. Most people are getting lots of toppings, sauce, extra meat, cheese, like all kinds of stuff like that. So those aren't the healthy ones. Really, you're only healthy if you get the one certain sandwich. And in addition, Jared also had trainers. He had aides helping him work out. That was the joke on South Park, was he had these trainers helping him and he walked and did all this exercise too. So it's really in conjunction with a healthy lifestyle. Like, yes, you could get away with Subway, and even you could say, oh yeah, it's definitely healthier than trying to eat McDonald's every day and have a healthy version of that. Like Subway certainly has a healthy option, but it gets a little misleading when they make the commercial and imply like the whole place is good for you, and people start to think that, and it's kind of, not what people should be doing. It's like bad advertising, like misleading advertising, which is illegal or finable in some places. So here it says, Subway sandwiches contain too much sugar to legally be considered bread. Supreme Court rules. This is a Irish website. It's from Dublin. It says this: the Supreme Court today ruled that sandwiches made by Subway contain too much sugar to legally be considered bread. The ruling today arose from an appeal from Bookbinders Limited, a Subway franchise, which claimed that it should not have to pay VAT as many products it sells are staple foods and should attract a 0% VAT rate. However, the 5-judge court ruled that the sandwiches must attract a rate of VAT due to its sugar content. The law states that for bread to be considered a staple product and not attract VAT, it shall not exceed 2% of the weight of flour included in the dough. Subway's bread bread has a 10% ratio. This appeal arises from a claim submitted to the Revenue Commissions by Bookfinders Limited in December 2006. In the claim, the Subway franchisee sought a refund for VAT payments made from the period January and February 2004 to November-December 2005, a rate of 9.2%, which it claimed should instead have been subjected to 0% VAT. The court ruled to exclude the bread used by the appellant in their sandwiches from being considered a bread under para XII of the second schedule, as the sugar contained in the bread exceeded the percentage allowed in the schedule. So it appears this company, this franchise of Subway, might have shot themselves in the foot here. Essentially, they're trying to get out of this VAT. This seems like some kind of tax or fine or fee on restaurants, rather. It's just, what you pay to operate in this area. There's certain fees and taxes you might have to pay into depending on where you live and operate. And apparently they're trying to get out of that because this food has bread in it. That's a staple food, and they're trying to get that 0% rate. But the court has ruled against them since their bread doesn't meet their standards. I mean, it seems a little nitpicky. I'm not really sure where they come up with this rate, like how they're deciding, it has to be 2% the weight of flour. Like that's how much sugar is allowed to be in like official bread for them. But I think really it's just kind of this rule in Ireland that they're trying to get around. And now it's caused this stir, that's caused this kind of like controversial story, and it's going to expose Subway a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to ruin them or cause them to go down or anything like that. Like they're far too spread out for that to happen. But I do think this is going to wake people up. That's why I was talking about all the health sides to this in the intro and how it's just a little misleading. It's not necessarily as healthy as people think. And I think that's going to really turn the tide on this Subway and get people talking about it again. And also just, the other thing, like I was saying earlier, it's just not the greatest. Like I know a lot of my family and friends, they just don't even try Subway anymore. I go for it once in a while. Like I like to give them a shot. There's a lot of them by me. There's a lot of them by you too. I mean, they're everywhere. So it's hard not to try it, especially they send you coupons sometimes. And I'm like, a $6 footlong of whatever I want. I'll go get the cheesesteak. And that sounds good once in a while. But in general, like I wouldn't go there out of my way. Like if I had a choice, I just would get a sub somewhere else. Like there's so many better options, especially stuff that's popping up around me. You can get subs at your grocery store. A lot of gas stations have good options now. They basically have Subways inside of them. And they used to actually put literal Subways in gas stations, but now some of the stores are wisening up and they're just making their own sandwiches within their store. And some of those are actually turn out to be better than Subway. So I think they have a lot of competition and they still have that low income bottom level. But that's the other thing. Like it's not really as cheap as it used to be. It used to be able to get like $5 footlongs. And I think they still have that sometimes on like certain sandwiches. You could get like the cold cut trio for $5 footlong, but that comes and goes. And I think they even raised it to $6 footlong. But that was the thing. That was when I actually used to go to Subway a lot, was when it was a good deal. I remember I used to be able to get the spicy Italian as a $5 footlong back when I lived in California. And I would get that one all the time because it's like so much food. You're living on the cheap. You're trying to pay your rent. And, I was just moved there at the time when I lived by a Subway. And I was like, I'll get that once in a while. You can put a lot of toppings on it and get this footlong for $5. Like you can't beat that deal. That's where Subway really shines. But nowadays they cost more. They don't have those same footlongs. They definitely don't have that spicy Italian one. And in addition, like if you want to get the sub you want, it can actually be pretty expensive. Like if you get the cheesesteak without a deal, it's like $10 for a footlong. And I mean, that's not that much money, but if you're going to pay that much, I'd expect higher quality. And since you're at Subway, you're not really going to get that. It's not going to be healthy like you think. They try to pretend it's healthy, but it's filled with sugar, as the story says. Bookfinders argued that all of the ingredients, if included, would have to exceed the allowed percentage in order to fall outside the 0% rate, and not just the sugar, into the 13.5% rate. The judges rejected this argument, also agreeing that it was clear that once the allowed percentage was exceeded for any one ingredient, the bread lost the 0% rate. The franchisee also argued that certain VAT rates applied to cooked products and cold products which had subsequently been heated. It argued that only cold tea and coffee which had been heated fell under the 13% rate, while tea and coffee which was prepared hot came under the 0% rate. The court similarly rejected the argument. So essentially, this is a company trying to get a better tax rate, and they've accidentally exposed their whole franchise as being not as healthy as they claim, because this is a standardized thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, there could be some differences in Ireland or in other countries with their Subways, but Ireland is a similar palate to America. They certainly have their different tastes and different foods, but Ireland is similar, like Britain and a lot of Europe. We're not that far off, so I assume there could be a lot of similarities between the sandwiches here or there or other like Western influenced countries. So you can just be alerted that there's going to be a lot of sugar in your bread. And the comments seem to be kind of coming down on this. This first comment says, with that much sugar in a sandwich, it should be called a biscuit. Real bread should contain no added sugar. Wonder how much sugar in those burger buns from fast food outlets. Get a big blah. It's the only job for a burger. Maybe there's a market for sub blah, no sugar, just pure tasty. This person says, in other news, McDonald's food contains too much sugar and crap to be actually considered food. Does Eamon Ryan say, get the greens into you? Hillbillies, you're only man. It's American, of course, desserts for breakfast. So they're goofing on the American influence and the Subway stuff. This is, again, an Irish website, an Irish story, and I respect them for taking this stance. I think it's funny that Subway's gotten exposed, and we could see that, again, we're seeing a company trying to pretend to be healthy when they're really not. So that about wraps things up. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Tell me what you think about Subway. Tell me if there's a couple locations near you like there is for me, and tell me what you would order from Subway, what you've ordered there before, what you like there, what you might get today. I feel like I'm getting a little hungry talking about it so much, so I think I'm about to get some lunch. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.